Oh, brief history on young Jeezy. He came from Atlanta. Actually came from Macon, which is a smaller town. It's not Atlanta. It's more of a rural area. I mean, it probably does have city parts, but time I went through Macon, it wasn't Atlanta. But it's a cool town. Have a lot of hip hop artists that come out of there. And Jeezy made his name through mixtapes. The mixtapes built the following. The momentum came. There was a lot of things going on in Atlanta at that time. And people were talking about this guy named Jeezy running around in Ferraris and Benzes and Rolls Royces. And who is this guy Jeezy? And he came out with people consider this like the classic Trap or Die. Trap or Die mixtape is considered one of the first mixtapes to really introduce people to some of that trap sound that a lot of people have taken advantage of now. So, move forward. In 2014, I would say Jeezy is probably at the point of, I would say he's still young. He still got a lot of work to do to be full OG, but he's breaking artists. He's breaking artists. I mean, YG has had an amazing run. A lot of people put that album as one of the better albums to come out this year. Some say best on the rap tip. And Jeezy was the guy to really break that record, you know, with the My Hitter song. I would say right now he's one of the top. If you were saying T.I., Jeezy, Ludacris, he's definitely, I mean, when you look at Atlanta, he's one of those figureheads of that Atlanta, when Atlanta was coming up and just destroying everything. I think he's gotten a lot of cosigns from the Jays, from the Diddy's, and so I think at this point, he really has, with his album collection, I think he's one of the better album building guys. A lot of guys will come out with a single or a track. I think Jeezy's proven that he has a track record of putting together pretty good solid albums. So, first track that I'm gonna put you on to is a song called Enough. I really like this song. It's hard for me to pick what songs I like because I'm a Jeezy fan and I like the whole album, but I'm gonna give you songs that aren't the songs that everybody is gonna jump onto. So Enough is what I like because it's motivational. He's talking about, you know, the hook goes somewhere along the lines of, if you grind hard enough, if you grind long enough, you can get whatever you're trying to get. So I play that when I'm going to work, getting myself through the drudgery. The second track to put you on to is Seen It All. I had to do this. I mean, like for me, I want to keep the tracks, anytime I'm reviewing the artist, I want to keep the tracks as tracks that are just the artist. But this track, Seen It All, to me, is the title track of the album. It has to be there because I think it's one of the better songs I've heard this year. It's one of the better songs I've heard this year. It's definitely in my top 10. Seen It All, to me, is it's like Jay-Z and Jeezy telling street stories, but the way they tell them is so vivid. Like the transition that they went from the streets to corporate. And I think, like, the one thing I like about this record is that, like, I think a lot of times people will tell street stories and they glorify just, okay, I was in the street, I made money, I did what I did, now I don't do it anymore, but I'm still proud of what I did. And you can come from that perspective. But I think the Seen It All perspective is like, we came from the street, but we're showing you the transition that you gotta make to actually do something legitimate. You know, I think cats don't really understand that that's the next step in that whole thing. A lot of people talk about the Ross and Jay combination, but to me, what I always enjoy is Jay and Jeezy. It just seems to work. It just, whenever they come together, the track and the beat is just dope. Third track I'm gonna put you on to is How I Did It Perfection. How I Did Perfection. And this is hard because I really had other tracks I wanted to throw, but How I Did It Perfection is the last track on the deluxe version. Get the deluxe version. Don't leave any stone unturned. How I Did It Perfection, it ends the album off the way I think it should end off. Whereas the sample is really dope. And he basically talks about sometimes how you get tired when you going through like trying to climb the mountain of success. Like the concept, a lot of this album to me, the feel and the concept is really about what happens when you become successful. What are the trials and tribulations of successful people, and how you get through that from not just the street, but just as a man, just or anybody. How do you get through those situations? And to me, how I did it, Perfection, is like the culmination. It's like the conclusion to the story. It really describes, you know, where he came from. He describes a lot of stories of how he did it, and he describes of how like a lot of the things that try to pull him back into that world. And sometimes he just be like, damn, you know, like no matter how far I try to go from it, it keeps trying to pull me back in. So now we're at the end of this road in which you want to know what you should do. Well, you should buy the #1 album right now. #1 album, sold 100-something thousand. It's gotten some great reviews, but they wasn't me. It wasn't Done Son giving you the review. So the only one that matters is the one that I'm giving. Go get the album. Everybody that I've told to listen to it, now obviously it's gotta be your taste. You gotta be a guy, you gotta be a Jeezy fan. Everybody's not a Jeezy fan. But the ones that are, they're gonna understand what it is. You gotta be a Thug Motivation, you gotta be a Trap or Die, you gotta be the Recession. You gotta kinda have that discography of this whole thing. And if you're not with it, then you're not with it. But there's a lot of people that are, and for those that are, this is for you. I'm not gonna lead you astray. I like this a lot. I like the last album, but I like this album even better. Like this is probably between Thug Motivation, Recession, Seen It All, I think is definitely right there. It's in my, I said my top 3 or 4 Jeezy albums. So go get it today. That's about it. This is the Unnamed Music Show.